Echoes of a Fallen World. Captain Elena Reyes stood at the command deck of the Nemesis, the most powerful warship ever constructed by human hands. Through the panoramic viewport, she watched as the fleet of 37 vessels emerged from quantum space, their hulls gleaming with the reflected light of distant stars. 3,000 years had passed since Earth became nothing more than cosmic dust, yet the pain of its loss remained etched in humanity's collective memory. Captain, all ships reporting ready status, First Officer Takeda announced, his voice pulling Elena from her thoughts. The stealth systems are functioning at optimal capacity. The hegemony has no idea we're here. Elena nodded, her fingers trailing over the worn surface of the ancient medallion she wore, a piece of metal salvaged from humanity's homeworld before its destruction. Commence final preparations for Operation Phoenix. We've waited 3 millennia for this day. There will be no mistakes. The Galactic hegemony, a confederation of 12 advanced alien species, had ruled the known universe with unquestioned authority for thousands of years. When humanity began its expansion into space, developing faster-than-light travel and establishing colonies across neighboring star systems, the hegemony observed with growing concern. Humans were unpredictable, innovative, and multiplied at a rate that alarmed the long-lived species of the Hegemony Council. The attack came without warning. Thousands of hegemony warships entered the Sol system simultaneously through artificial wormholes. Earth's defenses, though considerable, stood no chance against the overwhelming technological superiority of their attackers. Within hours, gravitational weapons tore the planet apart from its core, transforming the cradle of humanity into an expanding cloud of debris and molten rock. Only those humans already settled on distant colonies or aboard deep space vessels survived. Approximately 12 million souls, all that remained of a species that once numbered in the billions. The hegemony hunted the survivors relentlessly, driving them to the fringes of known space, beyond the boundaries of civilized worlds. There, in the darkness between stars, humanity refused to die. For generations, they lived nomadically, constantly moving to avoid detection. They built hidden outposts in uninhabitable systems, converted asteroids into stealth bases, and developed technologies focused on concealment and survival. Each child born was taught the history of Earth, shown images of blue oceans and green forests they would never see, and raised with a singular purpose: to preserve what remained of humanity until the day of reckoning arrived. Dr. Kwan is requesting your presence in the laboratory, Captain, Takeda said, interrupting Elena's memories once again. She says it's urgent. Elena made her way through the corridors of the Nemesis, a vessel that represented the culmination of 30 generations of hidden technological development. Unlike the sleek, aesthetic designs favored by the hegemony, human ships were utilitarian and modular, built for function rather than form. The Nemesis itself had been constructed in sections over 50 years, assembled in the shadows of a dense nebula that blocked all long-range scans. Dr. Mai Kwan stood hunched over a containment field, her eyes fixed on the object suspended within it. A crystalline structure roughly the size of a human fist, pulsing with an internal blue light that seemed to shift and flow like liquid. The Prometheus core is stable, Dr. Kwan announced without preamble. All simulations indicate it will perform as expected when deployed against hegemony defensive systems. Elena stared at the device, hardly believing that after so many centuries, humanity finally possessed a weapon capable of challenging their oppressors. The Prometheus core had been discovered 30 years ago in the ruins of an ancient civilization far older than any known species, even the founding members of the hegemony. After decades of study, human scientists had unlocked its secrets, a technology that could manipulate the fundamental forces binding reality together. And the neural interface? Elena asked, gesturing to the neural implant at her temple, matching those worn by all command personnel in the fleet. Synchronized and operational, Dr. Kwan confirmed. When activated, you and the other captains will be able to direct the core's effects with unprecedented precision. We can target their ship's power systems while leaving life support intact, or we can. She paused, her voice dropping, "We can do to their homeworlds what they did to Earth." A heavy silence fell between them. The temptation of absolute vengeance hung in the air like a tangible presence. "The Council voted against planetary destruction," Elena said finally. "We're not them. This is about justice, not genocide. We disable their defenses, we take control of their central communication hub, and we broadcast the truth to every world in the hegemony. Let their own people judge them for what they did." Dr. Kwan nodded, though Elena could see the disappointment in her eyes. The scientist's entire family line had been dedicated to creating a weapon capable of inflicting the same destruction that had befallen Earth. For her, this was personal. As Elena returned to the bridge, a transmission came through from Commander Jackson of the Odysseus. "The fleet's flagship, Captain Rice, the Council is convening for the final briefing. Your presence is required." In the virtual conference room, the holographic figures of the fleet's 7 captains and the 5 members of the Human Preservation Council materialized around a circular table. These 12 individuals represented the highest authority among the surviving humans, their decisions shaping the course of what remained of their species. Counselor Wei, the eldest at 115 years, spoke first. "For 3,000 years, we have lived as ghosts on the edge of extinction. The hegemony believes us broken, scattered, and powerless. They hunt our remaining outposts even now, unaware that we have finally found the means to strike back." The holographic display at the center of the table activated, showing the hegemony's capital world of Nexus Prime, a massive ecumenopolis housing representatives from all 12 member species. "Intelligence gathered by our deep-cover operatives confirms that the Hegemony Council will be conducting their Millennial Assembly in 3 days," continued Admiral Chen, the fleet's highest-ranking military officer. "All 12 Supreme Counselors will be present, along with representatives from every major world in their territory. There will never be a better opportunity." Elena studied the defensive systems surrounding Nexus Prime, orbital platforms, planetary shields, and the massive hegemony armada permanently stationed in the system. Without the Prometheus Corps, attacking such a fortified position would be suicide. "What of the human prisoners?" she asked, referring to the thousands of captured humans who had been taken alive during hegemony raids over the centuries. "Our latest intelligence suggests they're held in containment facilities on Nexus Prime itself," replied Commander Jackson. "The liberation of these prisoners is a secondary objective, but our primary mission remains clear. Neutralize their defenses, seize control of the central communication hub, and broadcast the evidence of what they did to Earth." The evidence in question had been meticulously gathered and preserved over millennia. Recordings of the attack on Earth, testimonies from survivors, and most damning of all, the classified hegemony records stolen by infiltrators that revealed the cold calculation behind humanity's near extinction. "There's something else," said Counselor Wei, his voice grave. "Our operatives discovered references to what the hegemony calls the human anomaly in highly classified archives. We believe they found something on Earth before destroying it, something that frightened them enough to eradicate our entire species rather than risk us discovering it ourselves." This revelation sent murmurs through the virtual assembly. The possibility that Earth harbored something unknown even to its inhabitants added another layer to the mystery of their destruction. As the meeting concluded, the fleet commanders received their final orders. The attack would commence in precisely 72 hours, timed to coincide with the opening ceremony of the hegemony's Millennial Assembly. The element of surprise would be their greatest advantage. Back on the Nemesis, Elena addressed her crew, men and women born in the shadows of space, who had never known the feeling of standing on a planet's surface with open sky above them. "For 3,000 years, we have carried the memory of Earth within us. Our ancestors swore that humanity would have justice, that the ones responsible for our near extinction would one day answer for their crimes. Today, we fulfill that promise. Today, we emerge from hiding. Today, we remind the galaxy that humanity still lives." Throughout the fleet, similar speeches were being given. Weapons were checked and rechecked. Final system diagnostics ran, And in the secure laboratory of each vessel, scientists prepared the specialized quantum receivers that would connect to the Prometheus core. As the fleet completed its final preparations, sensors detected an approaching ship, a hegemony patrol cruiser on a routine sweep of the outer system. It had not yet spotted them, but its trajectory would bring it within range of their position within minutes. "Stealth systems at maximum," ordered Alina, tension rippling through the bridge. "All personnel, battle stations." The cruiser drew closer, its sensors sweeping the seemingly empty region of space. On the Nemesis, crews held their breath. Discovery now would doom the entire operation before it even began. Then, without warning, the hegemony vessel altered course, turning away from the hidden fleet. It had detected nothing unusual, just empty space where 37 warships silently waited. "They're leaving scanning range," reported the tactical officer, relief evident in his voice. Alina exhaled slowly. "The countdown continues. In 3 days, the hegemony will learn that their greatest mistake wasn't destroying Earth. It was failing to finish what they started." As the human fleet waited in perfect stillness, the captain shared one final communication, a simple message that would be recorded for future generations. "From the ashes of Earth, we rise. For the fallen, we fight. For the future, we prevail." The revenge of humanity was at hand, the reckoning of stars. The hegemony capital of Nexus Prime glittered against the backdrop of space, a planet-spanning metropolis housing billions of beings from a dozen species. Its orbital defense platforms formed an impenetrable web around the world, their weapons capable of vaporizing entire fleets. For 3 millennia, no force had dared challenge the heart of hegemony power. That was about to change. The human fleet emerged from quantum space directly within the defensive perimeter, bypassing the outer sensor grid entirely. The Prometheus core pulsed at the heart of the formation, its crystalline structure channeling energies not utilized since the universe was young. "All ships, commence Operation Phoenix." Admiral Chen's voice rang through the command frequency. "Nemesis, you have primary responsibility for the communication hub. Odysseus will lead the assault on the Archean Palace. Remaining vessels, engage defense platforms, and incoming hegemony ships." On the bridge of the Nemesis, Captain Alina Reyes felt the neural interface activate, connecting her consciousness to the Prometheus core. Through this link, she could perceive the underlying quantum structure of space around Nexus Prime. The energy flows, the defense grids, the vulnerable nodes where reality could be manipulated. Prometheus activation in 3, 2, 1. "Initiating," she commanded. The core flared with blinding intensity, sending pulses of energy throughout the fleet. These energies manifested as localized disruptions in the fabric of space-time, microscopic wormholes that opened within the power cores of Nexus Prime's orbital platforms. One by one, the massive weapons went dark, their energy systems collapsing as fundamental forces within them were temporarily rewritten. Alarms blared across Nexus Prime as the unthinkable occurred. The capital's defenses were failing. Hegemony warships scrambled to respond, but they found themselves facing an enemy that had spent 3,000 years preparing for this moment. "All defensive platforms neutralized," reported Takeda, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around them. "Hegemony fleet elements responding, but their formations are disorganized. They weren't prepared for an attack here, at their center." Elena nodded, her attention split between the battle and the neural link to the Prometheus core. "Launch infiltration teams. We need control of that communication hub before they can lock it down." Assault shuttles detached from the Nemesis, each carrying elite soldiers enhanced with cybernetic implants and armed with weapons developed in secret over centuries. Their target was the Central Broadcast Nexus, a massive structure that coordinated communications throughout hegemony space. Meanwhile, the Odysseus led the attack on the Archean Palace, where the Hegemony Council was gathered for their millennial assembly. The palace's defenses were formidable, but without the orbital platforms to support them, they could not withstand the concentrated firepower of the human fleet. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Nexus Prime," announced the communications officer. It's from the Supreme Archon himself. The holographic display activated, revealing the imposing figure of Supreme Archon Vexillar of the Moralax species, tall with iridescent scales and multiple sets of eyes that radiated cold intelligence. Unknown vessels, you have committed an act of war against the galactic hegemony. Vexillar's voice was calm, almost bemused. Identify yourselves and surrender immediately, or face complete annihilation. Elena stepped forward, allowing the transmission to capture her image, a human face, a species the Archon had believed nearly eradicated. I am Captain Elena Reyes of the Human Defense Force. We are the descendants of Earth, the world you destroyed 3,000 years ago. Today, we bring you justice. The Archon's multiple eyes widened in genuine shock. Impossible. The human remnants were contained to the outer reaches, their technology primitive, their numbers insignificant. You underestimated us, Elena replied coldly. A mistake your predecessors made when they ordered Earth's destruction. A mistake you won't live to repeat. She terminated the transmission as the battle intensified. Hegemony reinforcements were pouring into the system, but they arrived piecemeal, unable to coordinate effectively against the surgical precision of the human attack. On the surface of Nexus Prime, Elena's infiltration team fought their way through the central broadcast nexus. Led by Commander Ash, a veteran of countless covert operations against hegemony outposts, they moved with ruthless efficiency. Central control room secured, Ash reported over the neural link. Beginning data upload. You should have control of the broadcast system in approximately 5 minutes. Across the capital, similar teams were infiltrating detention centers, freeing the human prisoners who had endured captivity for generations. These hollow-eyed survivors watched in disbelief as their rescuers arrived. Humans in combat armor, wielding advanced weapons, speaking of vengeance and justice. In orbit, the battle had reached its critical phase. The initial surprise had given the human fleet a significant advantage, but the sheer numbers of the hegemony forces were beginning to tell. Several human vessels had sustained heavy damage, their crews fighting desperately to maintain position. Captain, the Prometheus Core is showing signs of instability, Dr. Kwan reported urgently from the laboratory. The continuous operation is creating microfractures in the crystalline matrix. We need to complete the mission soon, or we risk losing control of the effect. Elena made her decision instantly. All ships initiate Phase 3. I'm taking a shuttle to the surface. Commander Takeda, you have the Nemesis. Despite the protests of her officers, Elena boarded a combat shuttle with a small team of elite guards. Their destination, the Archon Palace, where the leaders of the hegemony were currently being held under guard by human forces. As her shuttle descended through the atmosphere of Nexus Prime, Elena witnessed the scale of what they had accomplished. The once impregnable capital was in chaos, its defenses shattered, its leaders captured, its communications under human control. When she arrived at the Archon Palace, she found Admiral Chen and Commander Jackson waiting with their prisoner. Supreme Archon Vexillar, now stripped of his ceremonial armor and restrained under heavy guard. The broadcast center is ready, Admiral Chen informed her. The moment you give the word, we can transmit the evidence to every world in hegemony space. Elena approached the Supreme Archon, studying the alien who represented the power that had nearly eradicated her species. Before we broadcast, I want answers. Why Earth? Why exterminate an entire species rather than simply containing us? Vexillar's multiple eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of resignation in his species. You would have discovered it eventually. The seed. What seed? Elena demanded. Buried beneath your planet's surface, in what you called the Pacific Ocean. A technological relic from those who came before, the precursors. The ones who seeded this galaxy with life billions of years ago, then vanished without explanation. The Archon's revelation stunned the human leaders present. Earth had harbored something ancient, something powerful enough to terrify the most advanced civilization in known space. The seed contained knowledge beyond anything the hegemony possessed. Vexillar continued. Our scientists determined that if accessed, it would have accelerated human development by thousands of years. You would have bypassed our level of technology entirely, becoming something greater. The Hegemony Council decided unanimously that the risk was too great. So you destroyed our world and hunted us to the brink of extinction because you were afraid of what we might become. Elena's voice was deadly quiet. Fear? Yes, there was fear, but also certainty. Your species' neural structure was uniquely compatible with precursor technology. The simulation showed a 97% probability that within 3 generations of discovering the seed, humans would have evolved beyond biological constraints entirely. You would have transcended. A terrible suspicion formed in Elena's mind. What did you do with the seed after destroying Earth? Vexlar's eyes turned toward the floor. We extracted it before the final bombardment. It has been studied in a secure facility beneath this very palace for 3 millennia. Despite our best efforts, no hegemony species has been able to fully interface with it. The neural compatibility was unique to humans. Elena exchanged glances with Admiral Chen and Commander Jackson. The implications were staggering. Not only had the hegemony destroyed Earth to prevent humanity from accessing the seed, but they had then stolen this ancient technology for themselves. Show me, she commanded. Deep beneath the Archon Palace, past layers of security that had already been breached by human forces, they found it. A chamber hewn from a single piece of unknown material, seamless and faintly luminescent. At its center floated an object that defied easy description. Not quite solid, not quite liquid, shifting between states in rhythmic pulses, its surface marked with symbols that seemed to change when viewed from different angles. Elena felt drawn to it immediately, a resonance that vibrated through her very being. Without thinking, she reached out her hand. Captain, wait. Dr. Kwan had joined them, having been summoned from the Nemesis. We don't know what it will do to you. But Elena didn't hesitate. Her fingers made contact with the seed's surface, and immediately, information flooded her consciousness. Not as data or images, but as pure understanding, concepts integrating directly into her mind without the limitation of language. She saw the truth of the precursors, a species that had evolved beyond physical form billions of years ago. She understood their purpose in seeding the galaxy with life, in placing technological catches on worlds with promising species, and she comprehended why humanity had been chosen, not for their aggression or resilience, but for their capacity for empathy, for connection, for understanding perspectives beyond their own. When she finally withdrew her hand, tears streamed down her face. The others watched her with concern and awe. Captain, Admiral Chen ventured, what did you see? Elena turned to face the Supreme Archon. You were right to fear us, but not for the reasons you thought. The seed wasn't a weapon or a technology of domination. It was an invitation, an offer to join something greater than ourselves. She activated her neural link, connecting to the broadcast center. Begin the transmission. Show the galaxy what the hegemony did to Earth, why they did it, and what they kept for themselves afterward. Across thousands of worlds throughout hegemony space, the carefully maintained narrative of benevolent rulership collapsed as the truth was revealed. Images of Earth's destruction, testimony from survivors, and the classified records of the Council's decision played on every communication channel, impossible to censor or block. And behind these revelations came something else, a message from Captain Elena Reyes, transformed by her contact with the precursor seed. For 3,000 years, humanity has lived in the shadows, driven by the memory of our lost home and the dream of justice. Today, that justice has been served, but vengeance is not our purpose. The hegemony feared what humanity might become, yet in doing so, they prevented the emergence of something that could have benefited all sentient life. We do not come to destroy or conquer. We come to reclaim what was stolen, not just from humans, but from every species in this galaxy. The precursors left their legacy not for one race to hoard or fear, but as a path forward for all intelligent life. Together, we can access this knowledge, this understanding. Together, we can transcend the limitations that bind us to conflict and fear. The age of the hegemony is over. The age of cooperation begins. Any world that wishes to join us in this new understanding will be welcomed. Those who continue to cling to domination and fear will be left behind, as life in this galaxy moves forward without them. From the ashes of Earth, a new future dawns, not just for humanity, but for all who choose to embrace it. As her message concluded, something unprecedented occurred throughout hegemony space. On world after world, citizens took to the streets, not in revolution or chaos, but in solemn recognition that everything had changed. 3,000 years of carefully maintained order had been revealed as a construct built on genocide and fear. In orbit around Nexus Prime, the Prometheus core finally stabilized, its energies harmonizing with the greater power of the precursor seed. The human fleet, though damaged, stood victorious against the greatest power the galaxy had ever known. And in the depths of the Archon Palace, Captain Elena Reyes, the last child of Earth, and the first of whatever humanity would become, placed her hand once more upon the ancient artifact. This time, she was not alone. Humans stood beside representatives of hegemony species who had chosen to embrace the new reality, all reaching out together toward a future none of them could fully comprehend, but all could help shape. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath as a chapter of galactic history closed and another began. Humanity had returned, not just for revenge, but for redemption, not just for themselves, but for all sentient life. And somewhere, in the cosmic dust that had once been Earth, the echo of this moment resonated across time and space, a promise fulfilled, a destiny reclaimed, a transcendence not of conquest, but of connection. The reckoning was complete. The awakening had begun.